The world may never know exactly why your dog is barking at that tree, or why your cat seems to think that your shoes are a perfect substitute for a litter box. Animals do inexplicable things all the time, and while they may truly be man's best friend, they still find ways to surprise us every day.
Before we begin, make sure you smash that like button, subscribe to our channel, and click the notification bell for more amazing videos.
Even still, one dog breeder was absolutely floored by her prized Labrador. The pregnant pooch was ready to birth a litter of pups, yet when the time arrived, no one could explain, or forget, the surprising delivery. Kent native Leah Barrett bred champions. Her black labs were some of the best in town, and they were no strangers to dog shows. Still, there was no competition on the calendar when her pregnant black Labrador Bo left her stunned. Bo was always destined to do great things. Her lineage appeared at the Crufts Dog Show, an elite competition that honors the best and brightest in purebred canine companions. It's a cutthroat pageant, and winning is a great honor. So, when Bo became pregnant, Leah was over the moon. As a breeder, she made her living off of bringing new puppies into the world, and if the litter turned out to be champions like their ancestors, that boded well for her. At first, the pregnancy seemed to be pretty ordinary. No complications had arisen, and Bo seemed happy and healthy. Leah eagerly awaited the birth of the new baby labs. The vet predicted that Bo would produce 5 or 6 puppies, but Leah, a staunch believer in her pups, had even grander expectations. She estimated the litter would contain 8 dogs. Neither she nor the vet had any idea what surprises awaited them. When Bo went into labor, Leah soon realized the true shocking nature of this pregnancy. The vet had told her to expect the delivery of each pup to take around an hour. This was not the case. Leah couldn't believe her eyes as she watched 7 little labs pop out of Bo in only 40 minutes. And she wasn't done. The puppies continued to come. Suddenly there were 8, then 9. Leah wondered when the birthing would end. Then, she noticed something that made her heart stop in her chest. One of the puppies had become trapped in Bo's birth canal. It was blocked by the lab's placenta, which had come loose during the delivery. Leah and her sister panicked. They couldn't stand the thought of one of Bo's children not surviving. However, there was no time to call in a medical professional. If the pup was going to make it, they'd have to make it so themselves. After 40 minutes of maneuvering, Leah and her sister finally retrieved the stuck puppy from the birth canal. But instead of breathing a sigh of relief, what they saw next horrified them even more. The dog was not breathing or moving. For an awful moment, they feared it was too late to save her. But the women persevered. They had done their research and knew to use suction equipment to remove fluid from the small pup's lungs. After a tense 10 minutes that seemed more like 2 hours, the newborn finally started breathing. Leah and her sister were overjoyed, but they had more reasons than one to celebrate. New mother Bo had just done something incredible. Astoundingly, Bo had given birth to a grand total of 13 puppies. Considering the average of 6 to 8 dogs in a Labrador litter, Leah was thrilled. Bo had done something truly worthy of a Crufts champion. But caring for so many newborns would prove more difficult than anticipated. One problem that arose was that Bo had 13 babies and only 10 teats. Because of this, Leah had to wake up in the middle of the night to feed the runts and make sure that each of Bo's children was happy, healthy, and well cared for. Of the 13, there were 7 boys and 6 girls. Leah named each of them after their own unique personalities. A few of the pups stood out immediately, thanks to a few cute quirks. The runt of the litter was given a strong name, Stormy, to give him a boost. One pup who howled a lot was named after a singer, Paloma Faith. And the puppy who almost didn't make it, Leah called her Hope. The 13 siblings truly were testaments to the unpredictable nature of our animal friends and the strength Leah and her sister exhibited when they saved the at-risk puppy. Of course, the litter wouldn't be staying with them for long. 13 puppies is a handful for even the most experienced dog owner to manage, so 11 of the pups were sold to new and loving homes. The descendants of champions didn't come cheap though. Leah asked €950 for each purebred pup, which comes out to around $1,222 in USD. This means that if she sold all of the Kennel Club registered dogs at that price, she brought home over $13,000. Not bad for a day's work. Leah knew she was lucky in more ways than one. Animal pregnancies can lead to serious complications, something she might have learned from Chris Hughes and Mariesa Caliguire. One look inside their home and you just knew their lives revolved around dogs. By 2013, they'd adopted a whopping 8 dogs. With critters of all different ages, breeds, and personalities, there was hardly a dull moment under Chris and Mariesa's roof. That actually gave them a bright idea. They started their own reality show called Life in the Doghouse. Over the course of a couple of years, the YouTube series gained a loyal following eager to see how the Ohio couple handled such a hectic household. Though they already had their hands full, Mariesa and Chris still talked about bringing yet another dog into the fold. There were so many needy animals out there, and giving one more a happy home would be a truly good deed. In the fall of 2013, they zipped over to the Cuyahoga County Kennel, where countless little faces peered out at them through iron cages. It broke Mariesa's heart that they could only rescue one of them. But then one interaction convinced Chris and Mariesa of what they had to do. When they walked up to one beautiful pit bull named Story, it was love at first sight. Of course, something was obviously different about her. Her enormously swollen belly told Story's whole tale. She was very pregnant, and the staff at the dog shelter said she was expecting 6 puppies any day now. In fact, they were a bit surprised Story hadn't given birth yet. Mariesa and Chris felt torn. On one hand, they really looked forward to the prospect of Story joining their family. But on the other, could they really handle this pit bull and her puppies on top of their other 8 dogs? With only minutes to make their decision, the couple followed their hearts. They brought Story home and introduced her to her new brothers and sisters, who were jumping with joy. Still, the pit bull started showing signs that she was unwell. Chris and Mariesa could only guess that her state was due to her pregnancy. They did a little research and learned that in high-stress situations, expecting dogs sometimes refuse to give birth. Knowing they had no time to lose, Mariesa and Chris hopped into the car with Story whimpering in the backseat. The other 8 dogs watched as they sped off to see their veterinarian. Even the vet was concerned. Fearing that something had gone wrong with her pregnancy, they prepared for an ultrasound that would finally provide them with some answers, and hopefully not devastating ones. It turned out that the animal shelter's assessment of Story was all wrong. They sized her up as being pregnant with 6 puppies. But in reality, she was carrying an unbelievable 12 puppies. And if she didn't deliver them quickly, Story would be in serious trouble. Unfortunately, it wasn't safe to perform a C-section on the proud mama. Story would have to birth her litter alone. All Chris and Mariesa could do was make her comfortable and hope for the best. What they saw the next morning was unbelievable. As if she finally knew she was safe, Story brought 12 happy and healthy puppies into the world, and not a moment too soon. Chris embraced the new mother as she took a well-deserved rest. With the puppies safe and happy, Chris and Mariesa had to figure out how to handle all the puppies. They now had 21 dogs in their house, which was enough to trip up even these seasoned canine owners. The couple realized that they couldn't care for all these pooches. Fortunately, drawing upon their connections in the animal world, Mariesa and Chris found homes for all 12 puppies. And that wasn't the only change in their household. To give the couple a little more space, Chris's best friend Ryan offered to adopt Story. They gladly accepted, knowing she would be in capable hands. Plus, the pit bull could still visit them anytime. After such a whirlwind few days, Chris and Mariesa felt relieved to sit back and relax with their 8 pooches. It seemed like things had finally returned to normal, except that before long Chris dropped an unexpected question. He asked Mariesa to marry him, and of course, she said yes. They happily tied the knot surrounded by family and friends, in a ceremony which naturally included a couple of their canine companions. Not every dog's behavior can be so easily explained. When one woman noticed her adopted pet Doberman, Khan, was acting strange, it became an immediate concern. But when the new dog grabbed her child by his mouth, things took a dramatic turn. Catherine Savilichik of Australia knew the risks when she decided to adopt a large dog. She'd heard horror stories about rescues who have trouble readjusting to life outside the cage, but she thought Khan was different. Even though Catherine and her husband knew Khan came from an abusive home prior to adopting him, they still had no qualms about introducing him to their 17-month-old daughter, Charlotte. Days after Khan's adoption, young Charlotte was playing with the dog in the family garden. That was when Catherine noticed something that would frighten any pet owner, especially those with kids. Catherine couldn't believe what she was seeing. Khan was snarling and pushing Charlotte around. It was every parent's worst nightmare, and for Charlotte, it must have been terrifying. Then, before Catherine could react, the large Doberman grabbed the toddler by the diaper and tossed her across the yard like a rag doll. Catherine raced toward her baby. What on earth was going on? It was like her loving dog, usually so gentle with the little girl, totally transformed. Catherine started running toward Charlotte when she saw something that made her take pause. Her 17-month-old daughter was pointing at a suspicious object slipping away into the grass. She suddenly realized what made Khan act out so aggressively. In the yard was a large king brown snake, one of the most venomous in Australia. Catherine realized Khan wasn't trying to harm little Charlotte. Rather, he was merely trying to get her to safety, fast. The dog saved Charlotte by flinging her out of harm's way. Unfortunately, that meant that Khan was the snake's new target. There was no time to waste. Catherine had the sudden realization that Khan was in serious danger. She made sure that her daughter would be okay before she turned her attention back to the dog. Khan might have saved Charlotte, but he'd been bitten on his paw by the snake and he collapsed to the ground. Catherine was in shock. But she couldn't give up on the dog. He was family, and he had just saved her baby's life without hesitation. She knew that she had to take action if the dog was going to survive. Catherine frantically rushed Khan to a nearby emergency veterinary clinic. Could he receive an anti-venom injection before it was too late? All Catherine could do was move as quickly as possible. Khan was in bad shape. He had a rough first night at the clinic, but thankfully, he managed to pull through. The staff was amazed to see that he even had an appetite when he woke up the next morning. He still needed to heal from his wound, but ultimately, he would be okay. It was the best news Catherine could have hoped for. She was overjoyed that her family's canine hero was going to pull through. Now, years later, Catherine is just as thankful that she chose to adopt Khan and rescue him from his abusive past. It really is true what they say: adopt, don't shop. You're not just buying a pet, you're welcoming a new member to your family. When Catherine adopted Khan, she had no idea he would pay back her family for their kindness. The fact that he went above and beyond and put his life on the line for his little sister was astounding.